Boss, it's an honor. People doing similar stuff, kicking ass and taking names is so cool to connect. So I just want to say thank you. But I want you to introduce what you do, mate, because it's super special. And I'm gonna give you a little bit of airtime.
Okay. So my name is Emily Kramer Throckmorton. I just recently got married, so I am slowly transitioning to just Emily Throckmorton. But for the time being, I'm hanging tight to my maiden name as well. But I own Kaizen Athletics, which is a functional fitness studio, and we're actually located in Virginia Beach, Virginia, so very far from you. And I've had my gym now. Oof. So 2016, we had a CrossFit gym. So 2016, 2018, we had 2 years of running an affiliate. And then slowly during that time frame, I started coaching more like one-on-one private training for some of the athletes that came to class. They said, oh, can I pull you aside? Can I work on X, Y, and Z individually? So that's kind of how I kind of got into doing one-on-one. And then we closed our affiliate in 2018. And so I kind of wanted to continue on doing it because I loved coaching. I really have a passion for it. And so I continued on from a small group standpoint. So I would do, groups of 3, groups of 4, and I ran it out of a friend's garage for about 2 years, believe it or not, which
Wow.
was like the size of maybe I could fit 2 Echo bikes in there. And I had one little tiny pull-up rig that hung from the ceiling, but that was kind of the extent. Um, and so for 2 years, I did that while I was waiting for my current location to be built. And so we've been in our current location, which is only a whopping 800 square feet. So very small as well. And you can tell we really like things intimate here. So we keep things very small, but I truly believe that, there's no reason to get this huge facility until you're absolutely bursting at the seams of the place that you're in. So, kind of the want of, oh, big is better, not necessarily until like you have yourself completely, grounded and you have a thriving business. So we are in our current location from 2020 to now. And then we're actually moving into a 3,000 square foot space
Wow.
come February. So that is our big news. And that is a huge step for me because I never thought the business would kind of take off this much. And I'm very proud of that. Um, but within our functional fitness gym, so we do small group training all day long. So, and I coach every class. So right now we have about 7 to 8 classes of small group training a day. And I would say majority of those are in the morning, and then we have a handful at night. And then in the middle of those small group training classes, I host a small group training class. So we're only talking 5 athletes for individuals with long-term impairments. So these can be physical or traumatic or long-term physical and traumatic impairments. So a lot of our athletes, we have stroke survivors, we have individuals that are wheelchair bound, whether that's from spinal cord injury or anything else that they've had that required them to be wheelchair bound. We work with those individuals as well. And then we do have a lot of veterans and wounded warriors that may have PTSD or TBIs that we work with as well. And then my kind of specialty is also working with amputees.
Wow.
And so 3 days a week right now, we provide a free class for them. And that's from 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. And that's been really something that has been such a beautiful thing. And, I'm sure you can understand from your side of things too, is watching individuals who kind of want that sports atmosphere, that camaraderie with your buddy, you're sweating, you're listening to loud music, you're high-fiving each other. You want that again.
Mm.
And so for me to be able to provide that for them, and they're learning how to, be on the rower again, or they're learning how to lift weights, they're learning how to use the barbell, all from a seated position, or maybe it's a single arm using an implement of some sort. It's just incredible to watch these adaptive athletes completely take off and get excitement in their life again. And, think, okay, this is not the end of all, there's more opportunities for me out there. So we started Kaizen Adaptive Training. That's the name of my nonprofit organization. And we started that in 2020.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the biggest thing you've learned from coaching adaptive athletes?
What have I learned from coaching
Yeah.
the
What
adaptive?
what's the biggest thing?
The biggest thing for me is I pride myself. I'm pretty good at I can scale and modify for any athlete that comes into the door. So, I think the old school way of thinking of, you have to have X amount of experience before you come into our gym. It kind of indicates that maybe you probably aren't the best coach, because you should have someone fresh off the streets come off into your gym, and you should be able to coach them no matter what. So I pride myself in, I have the ability to really scale and modify for all walks of life. And so for me to translate that over to adaptive athletes was pretty easy for me to kind of come into that. I have learned how to be very patient. I've learned that, things that you would probably do with an able-bodied athlete are going to be a little bit slower as far as how I would coach things, or maybe your warm-ups a little bit slower. Like, we have a lot of stroke survivors who have maybe had some brain injuries as well. And you might have to tell them the same thing 30 times, but you find ways to accommodate them, whether that's writing it on a small whiteboard for them, or like you adjust to what they need specifically. But I think, yes, being very patient, and also for me with these adaptive athletes would be changing the way you think it's supposed to look.
Mm.
So, you and I both know that when we do a wall ball shot, hip crease below parallel, and we're looking for a full extension at the top with the ball. Well, maybe this individual who has, below the knee amputation, they can't go below parallel. So you kind of have to shift your thoughts of like, okay, this is going to look different. This is not going to look like a full squat. So that's a big thing for me, because at my gym, I push form and function and safety a lot. Like, we want you to master the air squat before you move into the front squat and the overhead squat.
100%.
But for me, with the adaptive athletes, I'm like, okay, well, that looks safe. We're going to try this. And if this doesn't work, we'll try something else. You just have to shift the way that you think that it's supposed to look.
Mm. Yeah, and I would even challenge like the thinking of someone that would walk in and be like, oh, they don't look the same. I was like, look at a macro view, like they look like they're doing a wall ball. The
Absolutely.
minutia, right? The detail looks a bit different. Like you said, they're not below
Yeah.
parallel. Great, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone comes in who's 80 years old, right, and there is no way they're getting below parallel, what are you gonna do behind them? Just like, no, get down lower. You're like,
Right,
no,
right.
man, come in and move around, you know?
Correct.
Let's just
Yeah.
have some
And
fun.
absolutely. And that's another thing, is like, movement is medicine for
100%.
yeah. And for adaptive athletes, it's so incredible that these individuals, our class starts in the evening, but it gives them the entire day something to look forward to. So, for some of them, we have a few adaptive athletes who are gunshot victim survivors. And a lot of depression and anxiety and social interaction, I think that is tied into a lot of these individuals. And so for them, they look forward to this all day long. They come in and they're excited, and maybe it's something that it's gotten them out of bed for the day, because a lot of these guys can fall into this deep depression. I think the same goes for able-bodied athletes as
Hmm.
well. When they get an injury, they're like, oh, boo-hoo me, I'm going to sit and sulk about it for days. And now these adaptive athletes, they're wheelchair bound, or they have lost a limb of some sort. It can be very depressing. So I tie this to their mental health as well as their physical health.
100%. I
Yeah.
say all the time that fitness is just a catalyst. It's that initial door that we help open, right? We kind of stand
Yeah,
at that door and be like, "Hey, take my hand, come on in." We got cookies.
absolutely.
And
Right.
you come on
Pry
in.
them in.
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on, it's fun. We
Yeah,
play games to warm up, and then
absolutely.
once you're through that door, it's like there is so many other doors, and that's mental health, even social, like on all these things. I'm like, okay, now it's going to be a long journey, mate, but that initial thing is fitness. That initial thing is get them into the gym. That's why I
Yeah.
think it should be inclusive of everybody, right? Whether it's you've got no money and you can't afford a gym, okay, cool. We will look at things to be able to get you involved, or you're missing a leg, or you're old, or whatever it is, right? It doesn't
Right.
matter. Let's just try and create a space, whether it's this space or the next one. It doesn't matter, right? As long
Yeah.
as you move around. You might want to go do Zumba, and that's fine.
Hmm.
Shaking maracas at the front of the class is not for me, mate, but
Right.
it's gonna get you moving, then I'm gonna give you a hug and a high five for it as well.
Sure.
But let's just get
And
people going.
I think with the adaptive athletes too is, once they switch their mindset, is I'm trying to regain my independence again. That's my big push for these athletes is, I'm not worried about, if they can lift very heavy weights or if they can move very well with a barbell, like right off the bat. I'm thinking more along the lines of, can you transfer in and out of your chair safely? So we work a lot on dips, or we'll work on air squats, and we work on pressing movements off the floor. So we'll put a lot of our spinal cord injury athletes on the floor. And, they're not thrilled about this. They don't love it because they're very comfortable in their chair. And so for us, we're like, no, you're going to get on the ground and you're going to show me you can physically push yourself up off the floor so that when you fall out of your chair and your mom is in the other room, you can help get yourself up. So when they change their mindset, and I would say able bodies as well, and the elder, the older group as well. I have a 77-year-old woman who comes to work out three times a week with me, and her bone density is through the roof. Her mental capacity is fantastic. She's social, she's outgoing, she's they're going to coffee dates after the workout, and she's realizing that her strength is what's going to keep her out of the nursing home. It's not, oh, am I thin? Am I am I able to do aerobics in the pool? Well, is that great? But what's going to really keep you out of the nursing home is your strength. So once they flip their mindset is, okay, I need to start lifting and I need to, do more strength training. It's a beautiful thing to watch. Absolutely. Yeah.
Man, this is firing me up. I want to headbutt a wall right now.
Right.
But I joke about it all the time. I'm just like, I'm gonna make you harder to kill. They're like, what do you mean? I was like, no, I'm just gonna make this shell that we're bound to a little bit more robust, right? So we're gonna bounce a little bit more, right? We like to joke like, oh, don't worry about that kid, they bounce. I was like, yeah, but so should adults, so should everybody, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. They think they get to a certain age and that you should just be okay with, oh, well, I'm in my 80s. I shouldn't have to do this. Or, it's so sad to see, because you should want to carry out all the way, at least I do. I want to be strong and able to do my, daily routines, my daily activities all by myself.
For sure. And like, you got to have a little bit of a personal pride as well, right? I'm like, nah, fuck that. I'm gonna go out and do it myself. I'm gonna get up off the floor. I'm gonna walk around. I'm gonna be able to move and physically express myself. And again, I think it just links to everything else, man. I think it helps with self-awareness. If I come into your gym, right, and you put me through an absolute nasty workout, and then at the end you turn around and go, Alex, how do you feel? I'm gonna give you one thing, right? I'm gonna feel like shit. And then you give it 15 minutes, you're like, Alex, how do you feel? You're like, oh, well, I feel all these emotion X, Y, and Z. It was like, there you go. You've learned who you are, right? Not just physically. You've learned this kind of synergy, this combination of who you actually are as well. And I think that's so beautiful, man, and providing that for everybody.
Absolutely. It has been a huge, especially for our adaptive athletes, it's been such a huge thing for them when they come in and they're talking with their buddies about, what medication they're taking, or, they're joking about their sleep from the night before, or, what they feel when they're in the seated position, if they're in a wheelchair, or if they're an amputee, like what they're going through, they have somebody they can relate to. For an able-bodied athlete, they're like, oh, well, you wouldn't understand. You have both limbs, or you have both your legs, both your arms, or you're not in a wheelchair all day long. So for them to kind of bounce things off of, it's been a huge thing for them from a social standpoint and from emotional and mental well-being standpoint as well.
Yeah. What's your purpose?
Oh, my purpose. Well, I would say my purpose, it's definitely becoming, I feel it coming out of me more and more, like each day that I'm doing this. Like I said, I've been a strength and conditioning coach since I was in high school. I would say that's kind of when it all started, but it didn't really kind of hit the ground running until we opened our affiliate in 2016. But my purpose, especially for our community and the outreach that we've had from our adaptive standpoint, it has been the most unreal experience. I fully expected to get, physical therapists or occupational therapists or doctors to kind of lash out at what we were doing, saying maybe, it was unsafe, or, maybe we weren't qualified. I just kind of expected some negative feedback.
Mm.
But I have received nothing but positive feedback from every single healthcare professional there is in our community, and from people all over the world who will send me messages. Even adaptive athletes from all over the world. They'll say, "We wish you were here. We wish you were living in our country." It's been incredible. But I think from the healthcare side of things, I have had the most support from physical therapists who are now sending me their athletes. Um, Once they kind of get cleared from the hospital setting, they're like, okay, how do we get these guys in with you immediately? Because they know that my scope of practice is just fitness and health and wellness. I am not a physical therapist. I'm not an OT. I'm not a doctor. Like, I make sure they understand that. And in return, I get nothing but positive feedback because they're understanding, okay, she is leading them through functional fitness movements after they've been done with us. Because a lot of times, you and I probably understand this, is like they get done with physical therapy or they're done with the hospital setting. And then it's like, all right, well, keep doing this. Best of luck. So there's definitely a gap in this system. And I'm hoping that, like, you and I, people that are passionate about these athletes and want to fill this void for them, will continue to open up avenues for them, or continue to push this message out there saying, like, hey, there are people out here, there are coaches, there are doctors, there are physical therapists that are on your side to make you so that you live the best life you can live, with whatever impairment you have. And so my mission is to continue to reach these athletes, to continue to show these adaptive athletes, whether that's through social media or through word of mouth, but to show them that, here's an alternative. If you are a seated athlete, if you're in a wheelchair, this is how you can row again. Or here's a video of, athlete A doing, clean and jerks with a dumbbell with, maybe an upper arm extremity loss. So there's ways that I want to continue to reach people, and I hope to continue to find new ways to reach these individuals. But I would say my mission is just to keep these athletes moving. And I think it's inspiring for not just these adaptive athletes in the adaptive community, but also for the able-bodied population as well. They know at our gym, they know at Kaizen Athletics, that we are no excuse gym. Like, you come in and you're crying about your toe or your stomach ache, and then you see, one of our adaptive athletes with below the knee amputation doing, lunges. You're like, okay, my excuses are nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So my mission is to keep this going and thriving so that we can show, like, these able-bodied athletes, like, your problems, like your little tiny issues, are nothing compared to somebody else going through something even worse. So just kind of being that no excuse space for people, being inclusive, showing people that they're no different because of any impairment they may have.
Mm. I think something that shines through here, mate, is that you truly care. You can
Yeah,
see it in your eyes, you can hear it how you talk, and you can social media is a one thing and its thing,
sure.
but it shines through anyway. It shows that you actually give a shit about the people that walk through the door. You know what I mean? And I think that's number one, mate. I think that's that initial start point, and then everything else comes after that, right? And you made a really great point of bringing people in the gym and keep them moving. We are the prehab people, right? We're going to see you for
Absolutely.
50 years, right? Hopefully you don't,
Sure.
if you see us for 50 years, you don't see a doctor, right? Yeah,
Correct.
shit
Yep.
happens. Okay. You're going to have to go see
Sure.
them. Fine. And we're gonna have to delegate and push on, right? When
Sure.
things are out of our scope, and you're just like, okay, you might have to go see a physio, you might have to go see
Sure. And know your scope of practice.
100%, right? You're
Yes.
like, hey guys, we talk shit for a living,
Yeah.
and we have fun. We wear bloody sneakers and tank tops and stuff and swear at work, and that's kind of it. You're like, I can make you move a little bit better, but if something really goes wrong, I might know a couple things, but I'm going to
Sure.
delegate on,
Sure.
right? And then we're going to talk to other people, right? And I think that's where we come in. We're kind of like the glue, you know. Fitness has kind of been notoriously this thing where it's so fragmented. There's so many different niches, and each one are giving the middle finger up to the next one. I'm just like, no, 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 we know all our things.
Sure.
And you're like,
Oh,
wait,
yeah.
hold on a minute, guys. Like, we're all trying to do the same thing, right?
Absolutely.
And as
Yep.
coaches, we see them day in and day out, high fives, 6 a.m., 9 p.m., right? We're just like, guys, why don't we just all just come together. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
hey,
And that's the thing too, is you should never worry about what another gym is doing or what
no man.
another coach is doing. It's like you just do the best. And then, either way, you might lose some athletes or individuals or members to go somewhere else, but you can't, perseverate on that. You just say, okay, how can I just be better? How can I work very hard and focus on my own stuff? And then understand that, like, okay, a big thing for us is, how can I help you walk out of here pain free?
Yeah.
That's a huge thing for us is, and I think the old school way of thought is like, I'm going to make you throw up. I'm going to make you hurt. I'm going to crush your soul, and I've done it. I've done it to myself and I've done it to other athletes, but you have to know your crowd. And majority of people, the general population, they don't want that. They want an hour of working out. They want to feel good. They want to be pain-free. And then they want to come back for more the next day. But if you constantly are crushing people, they don't want to come back to that. So I've kind of shifted a lot of my training or a lot of my coaching to very individualized,
Yeah.
but like, how can I make you feel good after this? And I think that's makes me a little bit different than a lot of the other gyms, is because, you don't just have, for us, it's not just one workout of the day. It's very individualized. So when I have my group come in, I'm like, all right, who was here yesterday? Who was here the day before? What hurts? What feels good? What can we work around? And then I adjust and I program for them right there and then. And, we work on strength, we work on mobility, flexibility, and conditioning. And it works. It works for us. And that's the general population though. But if you have a specialist, if you have someone that's trying to become, a USA weightlifter, that's different. They're on the other spectrum. Or if you're somebody who's, trying to be a marathon runner, you're on the other spectrum. We are in the middle, and we're trying to help athletes understand that, like, you are a generalist. You are somebody that we want to be able to say, all right, go for a bike ride this day, or go for a jog this day, or go with your friend for an obstacle course race. And they would be able to do all of those things because they're so well-rounded, not just really good at lifting or really good at, running or biking. We're right in that middle with everybody.
It's actually quite funny because one of the last conversations I had at the last gym I was coaching at in New Zealand, I had that same conversation. They were like, "Oh, I feel like I didn't get smashed in the face," and I was like, "Well,
Sure.
you got to ask what you want, right? You come
Right.
in for a little bit of fitness, right? You turn up at 6 a.m. You come in 3 days a week.
Right.
You turn in for a little bit of fitness so you can play, football with your kid at the weekend."
Sure.
I was like, "Okay, great. So I want you to leave feeling pretty good." Right?
Absolutely.
You've kind of had a conversation with a couple of demons. You've told them to go fuck themselves. You gave someone a high five. You've got a sweat on. You've moved around. You've moved the
Sure.
chest piece forward, right? And you're like, okay, I'm going to come back in 2 days' time. You're like, great, I'll see you
Sure.
then. But if you wanted to be good at a sport, right? Whether that's
Sure.
CrossFit as a sport and be doing the sport of fitness or a specific one, I was like, well, then it's going to be a different story.
Sure.
Then things are
Right.
going to feel like shit a lot.
Right.
Like
And that's a higher commitment. And for majority
100%.
of people, it's like you get them for an hour of the day. Like, why am I going to come in and crush your soul within an hour, and then, make the other 23 hours of your day miserable, and you're trying to recoup for the next day. So it's just changing the style of coaching and understanding that pain-free is always the answer. Like, making them feel good, making them understand how to move well. That's kind of always underlooked sometimes. And for us, that's so important. Very, very important. Even with our adaptive athletes, we want them moving very, very well. And it's incredible. We have them on PVC pipes when they first start, of course, the same with able-bodied athletes, but to watch them progress to where they're now using a barbell or they're using dumbbells, it's incredible to watch. And we're not doing anything crazy. They're coming in 3 times a week. I have them for an hour each day. We're not doing this crazy programming. We're simply being super consistent with them, and we're working on mobility. And then we slowly add in the strength piece, and it gradually happens. But it's not going to happen overnight like people wish that it happened. It's all about what can you do consistently for the rest of your life. And trying to get my athletes to understand that is an everyday task, but they do understand that within our culture, it is all about the longevity of this. Not like, you're not coming to see me for 12 weeks so that you can prepare for whatever event you have coming up, you're here for the long term.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I want to branch off an earlier point that you made about intensity, right? And I think a lot of coaches need to really dive in and understand that intensity is relative. You
Yeah.
know, if you're like, okay, we got to work out and we're going to use I'll use a benchmark of Fran, right? Because most people listening to this will understand what Fran is, right?
Mm-hmm.
20 on 15 hour thrust to pull. You're like, no, this is going to suck. It's going to hurt. Whether you're going to do it and it's going to take, you're going to do it with an empty bar and jumping pull ups, or you're going to go heavy Fran. It doesn't matter. It's going to hurt, right? I was like,
Sure.
well, but it's going to be relative,
Sure.
you know. And if I get into the gym and start smashing it out, and someone else gets into the gym who might be 65, right, or
Mm-hmm.
literally doesn't really care what a thruster is, just tell them what to do and they'll move
Sure.
around, and they're just going to do some ring rows, right?
Sure.
Hey, was that a little bit? Did that hurt? You know,
Mm-hmm.
did your heart rate get up? Was it a little bit painful? You're like, yeah. I was like, but was it discomfort or was it pain? They're like, oh, it was a little bit uncomfortable. I was like, great, you got hit the stimulus. Well done, man.
Right. That's
That's
it.
it.
Right.
That's all we
Sure.
want. You know, it's not like everybody's trying to get a sub 3 Fran and we're trying to be able to link bar muscle ups and everything like that. There's like, no, no, no,
Sure.
no, no. This is all different. And I think having the skill as a coach to be able to assess the flaw and the
Mm-hmm.
people within it and just be like, okay, this person has now changed the way they're moving slightly. They're walking to the
Mm-hmm.
bar a little bit slower, right? You're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
they've got it. It's fine.
Sure.
There might be 6 minutes into the workout and I wanted them done in 4, but it doesn't fucking
Sure.
matter, mate. You know, it,
Right.
and obviously scalability comes in and
Sure.
whatever. But it's just understanding that these individuals are working hard for them, for their life, right? And not
Sure.
just, oh, let's go compete at a local competition or get
Right.
win the board, which fucking
Sure.
winds me up something rotten. I'm like, I don't care. They're
Yeah,
like,
we're not
oh,
really all about that.
oh, what weight is RX? I was like, I don't care, dude.
Right.
Like,
And that,
I don't.
yeah,
Just
and
work out.
that's another thing for us too. You know, when we had our affiliate, we would write down the weights every single day of like what we wanted you to do, like prescribed. Here's the weights. Now that I've had my gym with Kaizen Athletics, I never write the weight down. I
Yeah, me neither.
say, yeah, I'm like, how are you feeling today? You know, this is the stimulus that we're looking for. You know, we want it to be heavy, but we want it to be something you can move through, you know, 3 to 5 reps easy. What does that look like for you today? Okay. Did you have a bad night? Did you not sleep? Were you up with your newborn all night? Like, why am I going to tell somebody to come in and do, you know, 225 cleans when he's exhausted? He hasn't slept and his back hurts from, you know, a couple days ago when he was at work or something like that. It's like, you have to be smart about how you coach these individuals because they want to impress you. They're like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
I want
yeah.
to, you know, I want to show her that I can, or him, that I can do this. So they always step up to the plate. Or you have somebody that is unable to do it. They're going to try to do it anyway. You
Mhm.
know, so you have to just feel it out and say, okay, how are you feeling today? And we'll just adjust to that. Um, it works for some members. Some members want you to give them an exact number.
And
So
that's
then
fine.
and that's fine as well. So you just give them something that, you know, you think that they could do.
Yeah.
And that's why I like the small group setting is because you can give them so much more one-on-one
Mhm.
than, you know, and I have coached numerous hours, thousands of hours, different places all over. And I enjoy the concept of like, you do what feels good for you today. I enjoy it so much.
Me
And
too,
I
man.
don't, you know, and I think getting lost in a group of 20 or 30 athletes does not excite a lot of people. And I've been in those classes before and I watch a coach and not paying attention to half of them, you know, so half of them should not, they're doing, you know, squat snatches. I'm like, well, half these people should not even doing front squats. They should be doing air squats, you know? So it's like, finding out who you are as a coach and really deciding this is what I'm going to be hard about. I'm going to
Mhm.
be hard about your form. I'm going to be hard about your safety. And like that is so much more important than, oh wow, you know, that person, like speaking about the coach, like, oh, they know how to work out really well, or they know how to do muscle ups. Well, that's all great, but can they safely put you through a workout? Probably not, you know, so that's more important to us than anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it is interesting watching different coaches, their style, and what is important to them.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, oh, they can do it. And I'm like, yeah, you're just describing an athlete to me, mate.
Sure.
Like an
Yeah.
athlete
Not
and
a
a coach
coach.
are two separate things.
Absolutely.
And I think it goes the other way as well, though. Someone's kind of put the Billy Big Bollocks on coaching. I was like, you might be really good, mate. But when you get
Sure.
out on that floor and you got to start working out, things are different now. You're wearing a
Sure.
different hat,
Sure.
and I think they both aid each other. They're two separate skills that need to be developed. We're working in the fitness industry. I can't be fat, right? I can't be unable to get out of my chair.
Yeah,
That's
there's a sense of looking the part. Absolutely.
100%. I need to be
Yeah.
able to move around and move a bar with some sort of virtuosity, right? And
Sure.
same on the barbell, same with my own body weight. I got to be
Sure.
able to put myself into that uncomfortable position.
Right.
But and understanding that coaching is such an organic skill. I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, oh, I've nailed this. I got it perfect. And then you walk into the gym, you've had a really crap night's sleep, or I've had a crap night's sleep, right? And
Sure.
I could be the issue that day. And
Right.
then you get into the gym, you're like, oh, that default setting and those words that I always say isn't working today. It's
Yeah.
like,
Different
okay,
cues.
what are you gonna do now, man? You're like,
Sure.
I gotta figure this out. And I think
Sure.
that figuring out on the fly, of just like my preparation that I spent 45 minutes doing for a 1 hour class. So I'm basically doubling my workload. All
Sure.
that preparation has just gone out the friggin' window. I was like, what are you
Sure.
gonna do now, son? I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna figure it out.
Right.
That feeling, it just keeps me coming back, man. I love that. I was like, you've just
Yeah.
ruined my prep, but okay, let's do this.
Yeah, no, I do think preparing for your classes is extremely important.
Number one.
For us, we have an app where people sign up ahead of time, so I know who's coming in. I
Hmm.
know who has what injury, what impairment. I know what they're going through already, so that way you know what workout you're doing, how you're already going to scale, how you're modifying, what your warm up looks like, and eventually, after you put in the hours of coaching, you're going to become better at this. It's going to become easier on the fly. But in the beginning, you need to be spending so much time having preparation and having a timeline of like what you're going to do, when you're going to do it. And that way people understand too, oh, this coach has their stuff together. They're prepared. They already know what they're doing. They're not just, coming off from a sweaty workout and then just
Hmm.
jumping into it. They're prepared for it and they treat it like a job
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it is a job, and it's something that people should be taking very serious, and they should be very proud of the fact that they can have the ability to change the lives of able-bodied athlete, adaptive athletes, you name it. You're able to change the lives. So people need to understand that you should be taking it so serious because these people look up to you. They respect you and they want to be part of something because they think that you know what you're doing. So you need to continue to do that. You need to
Hmm.
continue to like be thirsty to learn more, to educate yourself. Like, I think there's something to be said that when somebody's just like, oh, I'm just going to get my level 1 CrossFit and call it a day, and then I'll start coaching. Well, it's like there are so many things out there that you can learn. You should be engulfing yourself in it each day. And especially when it comes to the adaptive athletes, there's so much information out there about impairments, about different diseases that you can help alter because of health and physical fitness. But you have to be eager to want to do that. So I think
Hmm.
that that's very important to us as well, as like continuing education. That should be really high on your list.
For sure, for sure. And I think the athletes look at you as a superhero.
Yeah,
They do. And you say they do, and they're gonna run into a brick wall head first if you tell them to. So
absolutely.
kind
Yeah,
of understanding that you've got these individuals in your hand, you're like, I gotta nurture them, right? I've
sure.
gotta help them today. And sometimes I gotta not lie to them, but kind of, get them doing things that they don't want to do. So then tomorrow they do something that they wanted to do.
Yeah,
Right. And you're like, well,
psychologically.
yeah, you just gotta play with them a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a science to it.
Of course, and I'm like, guys, I'm not gonna bullshit you, but you kind of leave some things on the wayside, and they turn around
Sure.
like, oh, how was I able to do that? And you're like, well, I know, but I'm just like, oh, well,
Sneak
you're a
You can sneak
superhuman.
some weight on them. Sneak
Yeah,
some
yeah,
weight on them. They have no idea.
of course, mate. What would you give if you were gonna give someone a piece of advice to someone coaching, able-bodied, neurodivergent, someone with living in with a disability, whatever? What would
Yeah,
you give them in the fitness industry?
sure. Um, as a coach to another coach who is working with this population, I would say kindness, like just be
Mm,
so kind, like over the top with your kindness, because these individuals come into your space because they want to feel something again. They want to feel loved, they want to feel supported, they want to feel encouraged, they want to feel like they are working towards something. They have goals as well, so they want to feel like you care just as much about their goals, whether that's lifting a PVC pipe over their head again if they're a spinal cord injury, versus your able-bodied athlete who's trying to get a 400-pound deadlift. They want to feel that excitement that you have towards that athlete. They want to feel like they're just as special, and so I would say for any coaches that are trying to become an inclusive coach, to keep that in mind, that these individuals have so much going on outside of the space.
mm.
And that's why we continue to keep our classes free and donation based, is because we know that they have so many extra barriers outside of the gym. So we try to make it as accessible for them as possible.
Right. That's that's so beautiful. Kindness. And
Yes,
I could
kindness
not
goes
agree
a
more.
long way.
100%, man.
Yeah,
The world's tough enough as it is.
sure.
Let's just add to it rather than take stuff away. And we're just trying to help
Absolutely.
people at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
May I just want to say thank you so much. I
Of
hope
course.
one day
Thank you.
I can visit the gym.
Yes, we would love to have you. Come on down. We
Thank
would
you.
love it so much.
If I ever end up in the middle of nowhere, I'll shout at you.
Okay, sounds good. I appreciate you letting me speak on this topic today, or on something I'm so passionate about. So if anyone wants to